the Iran war, and Hezbollah have fired missiles at central Israel. We'll speak to someone who's just come out of the bomb shelter. There are many Israelis underground trying to seek refuge from what is happening right across the region. The explosions continue. The diplomatic fallout continues too. We'll talk about that right throughout the evening. We'll also talk about the spring statement here in the UK. Growth has been downgraded, but Rachel Reeves thinks everything's fine. And a big exclusive about a usually sleepy part of the UK, which is just an absolutely shameful catalogue of errors, not just errors, but willful things that should not have happened. We'll talk about that in just a second. I'll give you all the details in just a minute. Talk exclusive coming up. We'll talk about Trump's talking about Starmer saying we're not dealing with Churchill. Well, we knew that, but now Donald Trump has said it, and what the implications are for the special relationship, if it indeed still exists. So much to talk about this evening. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can text me 87222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at TalkTV. Follow me at Peter Cardwell. You can send me a voice note, less than a minute, please. You can send that to the main number. You can also send me a WhatsApp text message to the main number, or ring me on the main number for a discussion. 0344 499 1000. Stay with me here on Talk right through to 10 o'clock. So much to discuss. Well, there's a Talk exclusive story I want to bring to you now, and it is one that absolutely shocked me. One of my sources came to me earlier today and talked about this with me. This is a Talk exclusive story about Labour bosses being suspended after a fundraiser row in a rape trial case. So what has happened is that two senior Labour councillors have been suspended for reportedly promoting a crowdfunding campaign linked to the former town mayor who helped her son hide evidence from the police in a rape case. Naheed Ijaz, 61, the former mayor of Bracknell Forest, was convicted last month of perverting the course of justice. What she did was that her son, who had drugged and raped a 15-year-old girl, he's been convicted of that. When the police came to the door, what did the mayor do? Did she say, okay, come in, let justice be done? No. She told her son in Urdu to go upstairs and hide a phone on which the court heard there was a video of him raping the 15-year-old. Her son, who's 41, was convicted at the same trial of drugging and raping the teenage girl that happened 2 years ago. The political fallout has spread. Senior figures, Labour figures of the council were questioned by Conservatives and others as well about a crowdfunding campaign. This was after the point where these two scumbags were charged by the police. So you can say I stand by my friend, but when they are charged, then I think you've got to really step back from that. And what they did was they put together a crowdfunding campaign for them. Who were the two people who did that? The senior Labour councillors who did that? Well, the council leader, Councillor Mary Temperton, and another person, Roy Bailey. Councillor Roy Bailey was the cabinet member for children and young people in Bracknell Forest. The council member for children and young people was organising a crowdfunding campaign for a rapist and his mother, a rapist of a child and his mother, a paedophile and his mother. The two councillors have been administratively suspended from the Labour Party pending a disciplinary investigation. Labour spokesman said, "We were appalled to learn of the crime committed by Naheed Ijaz. It is right that justice has been served. The Labour Party takes all complaints seriously and they are fully investigated in line with our rules and procedures, and any appropriate action is taken." The council chief executive, Susan Hallowell, said, "Bracknell Forest Council has been made aware that two councillors have been suspended by their political party. This is an internal matter for the party and the council is not involved in party disciplinary processes. The councillors remain elected members of the council unless they choose to resign their seat." They haven't resigned their seats. As with all councillors, they are expected to continue to uphold the standards of public office and comply with the council's code of conduct. We have contacted Councillor Mary Temperton and Councillor Roy Bailey for comment. Now, they have said that Bracknell Forest... Oh, sorry, I've read that out. But there is a statement from them, which I will just get for you now. Because what has happened is that those two people, as I say, have been suspended from the Labour Party, but actually they're still drawing a salary as councillors, And interestingly, the person who is the children and young people cabinet member, well, he who was doing a crowdfunding campaign for someone who was about to be convicted of rape and his mother, well, he is the father of Olivia Bailey, who is the Minister for Equalities in the government. She's an MP and Minister for Equalities. Absolutely jaw-dropping. We know that Olivia Bailey, who's the Labour MP for Reading West and Mid Berkshire, who is also the Minister for Equalities, said, "Violence against women and girls is utterly abhorrent, and it is right that justice has now been served in this case. I fully support the Labour Party's investigation into my father's deeply misguided action." Now, together, Mary Temperton and Roy Bailey, the two councillors who arranged this crowdfunding campaign, said, "We wholeheartedly apologise for this error in judgment. It was a completely misguided act of attempted charity made without the full facts. We have spent decades in public service, and we are both mortified that an attempt at helping someone we believe to be in crisis could be construed as minimising or detracting from those appalling crimes." That is what has happened in Bracknell. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on in the programme, but I, for one, am shocked and horrified that we have not only a mayor and her son. The son is a rapist, a paedophile. The mother helped to cover that up. She's been convicted of perverting the Court of Justice. But two senior council members, the council leader and the cabinet member for children and young people, putting together a crowdfunding campaign for that. Absolutely disgraceful. And you talk about historically, Keir Starmer talks about historically, the rape of children was covered up, and that we need to look into what happened previously. Well, it's happening right now. It's happening right now. That is what's happening. We're going to talk about that a bit later in the programme. We're also going to talk, of course, about Israel, about the Middle East and Iran. Yoram Confino is Middle East correspondent and author and joins me now from Ra'anana. Yoram, can you tell me what has been happening in Israel in the last few hours? Because, you know, Hezbollah has been firing on the region. You've been in shelters like every other Israeli. Tell us about this.
Yeah, it's quite an eventful evening here in Israel. We just came from bomb shelters once again. And this time around, it was Hezbollah that fired long-range missiles from Lebanon at central Israel. And that's why we didn't receive a notification on our phone. In the past couple of days, every time there's a ballistic missile, it's coming from Iran. So you get a message on your phone saying in a few minutes, the rocket sirens will go off. Well, because Lebanon is much closer, you don't get that. You only get the siren, which is good. You get a minute and a half. Anyway, we ran for shelter and we're out again. A lot to say about this incident. I know that we're talking about Iran a lot, but this is turning out to be a regional war, and I think we should address the Lebanon aspect for now at least.
Please tell us your thoughts on that and what's happening.
So, first of all, it shows us several things. Hezbollah has not been disarmed, despite the Lebanese army saying and announcing that they had basically cleared southern Lebanon from Hezbollah members and disarmed the entire region. They announced that back in January, which Israel said, well, that's not true. And now we have perfect proof. Not only has Israel been hitting Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, which means we know that they're there, but now they're also firing both drones and long-range missiles from that area. That's number one. Number two, it also means that Hezbollah is now openly defying its own government, which it has been doing many, many times before, but now it's in an extremely weak position. And it's actually been outlawed. The Prime Minister announced that Hezbollah has essentially been outlawed. The Justice Minister wants to bring those who are firing rockets to justice. So this has the potential to ignite, I would say, almost a civil war in Lebanon, because Hezbollah is actively dragging the entire country into another huge war. Israel has already sent more ground troops into southern Lebanon overnight, and they are bombing Beirut several times a day currently. I spoke to a source earlier today who told me that Israel is not looking to hit the government, the Lebanese army, in any possible way. They're only going after Hezbollah because they don't want to have to deal with also the Lebanese army, which is essentially trying to rein in Hezbollah, but also because the United States has asked Israel to focus on Hezbollah. My source also told me other things, and now I'm shifting a bit to Iran. My source told me other things about what's happening on the ground right now. In my source's opinion, or according to Israeli assessment, it is enough for Israel to continue the war with Iran for 2 weeks. That means Israel will be in a good place, so to say. They will have achieved so much militarily that for Israel, that is essentially enough. anything more than 2 weeks is seen as just a bliss. And lastly, my source also said that the Gulf states, which have been the recipients of hundreds of ballistic missiles and drones from Iran, they might be willing to go in and attack Iran, but they are a bit worried because they would effectively have to join an Israeli-American operation. Because logistically, it's impossible to avoid having to deal with Israel and the United States. And they are very worried, and this is very interesting, they're very worried that Israel is becoming too strong. So they don't want to be seen as fighting and giving Israel the military backing that they need to finish Iran off.
Just on that point, Yoram, really interestingly, we've seen a number of regional players who previously against Israel, the Abraham Accords and other things that have happened in the last few years have meant a truce, have made that they're not necessarily friends, but they get on, they trade together and so on. Now we're in a situation where they could be, perhaps not forced, but perhaps persuaded to work together in some way. How uneasy is that? Because the kaleidoscope is really shifting in the Middle East, isn't it?
It's shifting so fast. On October the 7th, Yahya Sinwar single-handedly, well, him and many other Hamas members managed to destroy the path to normalization between Israel and Saudi Arabia. The past 2 years, the Gulf states have really had a hard time having anything to do with Israel, especially publicly, because of the condemnations over how they were conducting themselves in Gaza. The Gaza war seems to be so far away right now. We're looking at a whole different picture, which is the entire region, where it's essentially divided into two groups. You have Iran and their proxies, and then you have Israel, the United States, and all of the Arab moderate nations, which are now on the same side. They're being forced by Israel to stand on the same side because they are attacking them. Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Oman, the Emirates. It's simply too difficult to keep up with what's happening now.
But it's also weirdly simple, isn't it, Yotam? It's also weirdly binary in terms of saying you're either for Iran or against Iran, and actually, if you're against Iran, you're going to be with Israel and the United States. So it's incredibly complex, but it's also kind of simple too.
It is simple, and I think many people in the region, and especially Prime Minister Netanyahu, has said for years, look, we are natural allies. Israel, Saudi Arabia, and other Arab nations. We might not agree on many things, such as the Palestinian issue, but when push comes to shove, we're all facing the same menace, which is Iran, that are sponsoring terror groups that are not only hitting Israel, but also hitting the Gulf states, and now they're themselves sending ballistic missiles into residential areas and hotels in the Gulf nations. I don't think it's going to take long before Saudi Arabia, and especially the Emirates, are somehow going to do something about this. It's simply impossible for them to sit on their hands and not respond to daily attacks on their residential areas and civilian infrastructure.
Fascinating. Yotam, listen, thank you for your report there. We'll speak to you again soon. I'm sure Yotam Confino there, Middle East correspondent and author. I have his book. It's a great book. Lots to discuss. He's in Renana there. What do you think of what he said? And what do you think of the story that I was telling you as well about Bracknell here in the UK, about that disgusting and disgraceful crowdfunder for a paedophile headed up by two senior councillors in the council? Lots to discuss. 0344 499 1000. Be sure to get your call in and let me know what you think between now and 10. Stay with us.